First of all, good afternoon, everybody. I want to, first of all, thank you all for coming. We are here today. I'll be introducing the governor momentarily to discuss economic development. Yesterday, the governor was in this room talking about his plan for economic development, which I will say as a former mayor is absolutely transformational. He's talked about the regional council concept, driving decision-making down to localities, to the grassroots level, having those decisions come up, and in many ways, eliminating the past practices of spending as a state billions of dollars in economic development that has gone in so many different directions without a focused approach. The governor's approach is the regional council approach, which is bringing localities together to have them as a team identify their priorities, identify their capacities, help build these capacities around the state, which is going to make a huge difference. The next part of it, which the governor will be discussing today, is he has done a whole new direction, and that is aligning state government. When the regional councils, when the local governments in these councils apply for funding, as opposed to navigating many different areas, the governor's going to discuss what he is doing. He is aligning state government. He is aligning all the different resources together so it becomes, in essence, a one-stop shopping. Yesterday's meeting that you saw here, this to me is a manifestation of what Governor Cuomo was doing. Having all the commissioners in this room, he is taking everybody in state government and aligning them, and the number one focus of the governor's administration is creating jobs for New Yorkers around the state. It's taking every aspect of state government and having them all align in this direction. And as I bring him up, I want to just point to, here's what I think the most important thing is the governor comes up to talk about what he's done. He has had the most extraordinary 6 months of any administration in my memory in the state. He has set the table. He has built confidence. He has reinforced that government works for people. He has done that. He's now taking on a regional approach, creating, again, its regional council approach that will focus on entities locally around the state, identifying their priorities, their capacities, and funding those and having the money to fund those in a way that will end up creating jobs and transformation. And number three, it's aligning state government. It's aligning every area of it so all the disparate areas of funding come together under one, and it's making government work for the people. So without any further ado, please welcome Governor Andrew Cuomo to the podium.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank the Lieutenant Governor, who, as you know, is the point person on the economic development efforts, among other aspects of his portfolio. But Bob Duffy, as the mayor of Rochester, knows this issue, knows it inside and out. It's been his passion. You can hear the passion in his voice when he speaks about it, and he's done an extraordinary job, and he will continue to do so in this area. As we discussed yesterday, economic development is the priority, right? Best social program is a job. Best thing you can do for the state is to grow the economic base, grow the tax base, and we're now at a point where we want to deploy the entire government to focus on that goal. And we laid out a multi-part strategy, the components of it. We started to talk about it yesterday, looking at the chart from the bottom up, bringing the state government to different localities across the state, getting the government out of Albany, partnering with local communities. The business development campaign, which we'll announce in the coming weeks, part of which is going to be a television marketing campaign, but it's also going to be a business-to-business campaign. The comprehensive strategic plan, we'll be asking the regional councils. The ultimate product is a strategic plan for that region, and that will be the application to the state, the strategic plan. You'll hear more about that later. The regional planning councils, 10 all across the state, and today the ESDC competitive grant and consolidated application program. Someone commented that we used a lot of management terms yesterday. We did, because this is a management exercise, right? One of the key components to running a government is running the government. And we spent a lot of time doing the legislative work in the first 6 months and getting the laws set. Now operate the government, operate the instrumentality of the government, manage the bureaucracy to actually deliver something. And that's this management program that we're laying out today. On the competitive grant and consolidated application, when you talk about economic development, you will hear, if you brought the best economic development national experts, they would tell you two things. The economic development happens on a regional basis, and they would tell you that you need a comprehensive, holistic strategy for that region. And those are the two top commandments for economic development. The way government is organized actually frustrates those two directives. We talk comprehensive approach, holistic approach, but the way government operates is exactly the opposite. We're fragmented in our approach. We're balkanized. We're organized in silos. We administer housing programs, divorced from transportation programs, divorced from economic development programs. But the theory is the only way the plan operates is when those are all integrated. But government is organized in vertical silos when really the approach has to be horizontal. So how do you get this framework of government, which is organized in the exact opposite way you need it to apply on a local level, and how do you get that comprehensive approach? Second, we talk about regions. But we're not organized in regions. We're organized in geographic templates that frustrate regionalism. We're the city of Albany. Mayor Jennings is here. But we say the economy really operates in the Capital District region, which incorporates a number of cities and a number of counties. So literally the organizational subdivisions of government frustrate the regional approach. What we're trying to do is foster that comprehensive regional approach and defy, if you will, the normal government operating framework which has frustrated that. So a consolidated funding application which will be the basis for the regional council's submission of the strategic plan, okay? A lot of big words. Consolidated application, which will be the basis of the regional council's submission of the strategic plan. And what we're trying to drive through this process is the comprehensive regional approach. So in one application process, the localities can apply for $1 billion in funding for economic development purposes. We believe it's the largest single state funding for economic development that's ever been assembled. And we're saying to the governments all across the state, we're serious about this. We're putting our money where our mouth is. It is about bringing jobs to New York and growing jobs in New York. And there will be $1 billion in funding available. And the state agencies will be cooperating in a consolidated approach. So the $1 billion is Empire State Development Corporation, $270 million, NYSERDA, $175, Housing Community Renewal, $169, Transportation, Environmental Facilities, Parks, State, Labor, Canal Corporation, and Private Bonding Capacity. When you total it up, it's $1 billion. And these agencies will be working together and will be coordinated together in a comprehensive strategy that will then partner with the local communities. So it's a significant amount of funding. It's a fundamentally different approach for this state government, and hopefully it drives a different approach on the local level. It drives a comprehensive regional approach. With this management template, with this amount of funding, I think we can make a significant difference. We'll put it together with the other components of the program, and I think you're going to see an impact when the day is done. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor once again for his leadership on this. There's been a lot of organization and a lot of groundwork to make this possible. We literally started working on this day one in January. And that's why we're ready to proceed with the program now. And that wouldn't have happened if the Lieutenant Governor hadn't spent the time that he did. So we thank him very much. Questions, comments?
How will you determine what are the criteria with which you're going to be determining the winners of these grants? I mean, who gets the money?
Yeah, we are going to be publishing, today we'll put forth a federal guidebook that's going to have all the application, the different programs that will be included in the application process. We will then be putting out in the coming weeks the actual application itself and the criteria to determine the winners among the regional councils, right? We're going to name regional councils, 10 across the state. We're going to lay out for them how they're going to apply for the $1 billion and what a winning application is specifically by these criteria, the grading criteria. And they'll be published within the coming weeks.
Can you give a hypothetical of what a potential application that would incorporate all this stuff, what would that look like?
Capital District says it's a bottom-up process. But to make it up, Capital District, part of which is under the able leadership of Mayor Jerry Jennings, says we have an economic vision, long-term economic vision for the Capital District that we're going to be the Nanotech Center 2. We have a second phase of nanotech development. And the Capital District has a coordinated approach that's going to do that. And part of developing nanotech is bringing in this industry and this industry and this industry. And we're thus, therefore, applying for ESDC money to do this and transportation money to put a new spur off the thruway where we're going to access a new industrial park. So there's a long-term vision that the region is driving towards. This is how they implement and develop that vision: transportation, housing, et cetera. So the vision comes first, Ken. The implementation, the steps, are the program applications and the use of the state money.
Governor, will there be anybody in the administration who will be kind of organizing the different elements we're seeing on the right-hand chart there in the way that they might distribute the money to individual regional councils? In other words, if it's determined that $2 million goes to the Capital District from transportation or whatever. In other words, who will be determining kind of what the final, I guess the question is who's going to be the ultimate judge?
If I understand the question, Casey, this is for us the organizing principle of state government, okay? We have agencies, but we speak as one administration with one goal, and the main goal of the administration is the creation of economic activity. These applications will come back. There will be a selection committee made up of the different agencies that are participating and the division of the budget. And that one committee will make the selections and the designations among the regional applications. Is that the question you're asking?
Yeah. And are you ready to announce what the membership on that committee is going to be?
The main member on the committee is probably, as it works out, the agency that contributed the most is the ESDC. And ESDC will be staffing the regional councils. The Lieutenant Governor is the chair of the regional councils statewide. ESDC is staffing the operation. They're also the largest single amount of funding is from ESDC.
Governor, in judging these applications, will the state put any...
But transportation is part of it, housing is part of it, parks is part of it, right? They are all components of a regional sustainable economic development plan. I'm sorry, Glenn.
In judging these applications, will the state put any priority on any specific kinds of industry or development you'd like to see in the state, like high tech or green jobs or something like that?
You know, Glenn, it defies the approach. The approach is, we don't know. I'm not going to tell Western New York what their economic future is. And the future in Western New York, the economic future in Western New York may be different than Central New York, may be different than North Country, may be different than Long Island. It's for them to determine what industry, what their economic future is, what industry they believe they're going to be able to attract, how they build on their economic assets, and we then partner and fund their vision, right? That's the whole MO here.
Governor, will there be just one, say the Adirondacks, and let's say it's logging, will there be more than logging? Will there be construction jobs, or will there be health jobs, or nursing, whatever?
It's whatever the vision they develop. It can be whatever the vision they want, sure.
Okay.
In the evaluation of the applications, is it going to be, or when they look at a regional application, is it going to be sort of a all or nothing, pass or fail sort of evaluation, or might the council, might whoever's evaluating say, all right, we like elements A, B, and C of your regional proposal, we don't like D, E, and F, and you kind of pick and choose which parts to fund?
Yeah, it could be, yeah, where we are now, when we did this on the federal side, Yancey, it was all or nothing. There was a grant program, and you won or you lost, and there was one funding mechanism. The way we've done it here, frankly, because we don't have $1 billion in cash, and this is an amalgamation of existing agency resources, you could win components of the application, if you will, right? So Long Island puts in an overall application, part of which is a housing complex in Suffolk, right? And they could win the housing complex in Suffolk from the HCR program, but not win other components.
Governor, in terms of when the council gets into place and you're talking about a regional vision, since the mayor's here, you said, does he have to go to the council and say, I have this idea and hope that they'll accept that? Or is the council meet and decide this is our vision for a region?
He doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. Some mayors are strong-headed, opinionated personalities. Not in the case of Albany. Obviously, it's a very collegial. But from my point of view, the activity that we are looking to incentivize is regional cooperation. Capital District won a HUD enterprise community. You won, right, Jerry? That was for the Capital District region. And if they wanted to be competitive for the federal program, it had to be the Capital District. Meaning the mayors had to cooperate with other mayors. The county executives had to cooperate with the mayors. County executives had to cooperate among themselves. And then this whole government infrastructure had to actually coordinate with the private sector. So you had to have a lot of entities and factions stepping over lines that have been drawn on maps and into programs for many, many years. But that's the way it's going to work. So we actually use the money to incentivize factions to come together and form regions. So no, the mayor doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. And he doesn't have to coordinate. However, that application will not be as competitive as the parts of the state that do cooperate regionally.
But I guess my question would be, in terms of the council itself, would there have to be a representative from Albany, from Schenectady, from Troy, Albany County, Rensselaer County, on this council to coordinate all that? Or can everybody sort of bring their own ideas and see, throw it against the wall and see what sticks?
The council, the regional councils will be representative of the geographic area. They won't be finely calibrated, but there will be geographic diversity within that region. And again, they don't have to cooperate, but those regions that do cooperate will have a more competitive application and will win more funding.
One more, guys.
Will you be differentiating between jobs that are actually created in these plans and jobs that would be, say, retained, which has been a concern in the past, and then will there be a public auditing process afterwards?
Mike, that will be up to the region, right? Some regions will say, we have a bifurcated strategy. We have an attraction program and a program to retain jobs. Some regions are afraid of losing, and they have an immediate fear of losing jobs. And if a region makes a determination, look, we want to place our resources to retain these jobs because we're about to lose 200 jobs, So we worked with this company to retain, and we want to use the money to retain. That's their judgment. And that is not an illogical judgment. We spend a lot of money in this state retaining jobs. Now, the alternative is also true. If you're just retaining, you're not growing, right? So you can't have just a policy that retains. You also need to grow. And I think the most competitive strategies will be doing both. I could justify retaining, but retaining and growth is the optimum. As far as the transparency is concerned, the criteria will be published for the selection, and then all of these programs, as they operate, they regularly and routinely audit the program recipients, and the same will be true here. Yes.
Governor, yesterday the money coming from ESDC was pegged at $130 million. Today it's pegged at $270 million. What
Yes.
accounts for that?
Gross inflation. I don't know why. How did it go from 130 to 270?
The 130 is what was provided for in the budget specifically for the regional councils, but there's existing ESDC funding that's been incorporated into that.
This is all the program funding for ESDC, which is going to be brought to the table.
With the money spread out over so many different agencies and regions, how much do you think this is going to be able to accomplish, and how long will this money last, and will it be renewed?
No. See, the point is the opposite of the thrust of the question. The way the system now operates is exactly what you suggest. Fragmentation. A little bit of money everywhere, few housing units here, few housing units here, few housing units here, no critical mass. And fragmentation among the programs. So housing program here, disconnected from a transportation program here, disconnected from an economic development program. This is trying to create a synergy among the programs and among the funding streams, because that's how it actually operates in the real world. The regions that are successful are the regions that put these pieces together and have a comprehensive reconstruction, rehabilitation program that's working. So we're actually, and I believe there will be a compounding effect when you bring these resources together. So the agency, you're going to build the same number of housing units. You'll have more of an impact on the community when you coordinate those housing units with transportation, with labor, with parks, et cetera. Because you're building or rebuilding community. And communities have all those components within them. So I think there'll be an exponential multiplier for them. Tom?
Governor, just following up on the question, of the $1 billion, how much of it is new money that came with the 2011 budget?
I would have to add that up for you. I don't know. What is additional money from this budget? What's incrementally more from this budget than it was from last year's budget, is what you're asking.
No, I'm asking how much is new money versus money that's not been spent from previous years.
We can get you those numbers. Anything else, Tom?
On another topic, New Jersey is moving ahead with its medical marijuana program. Diane Savino today came out with a letter to you urging you and the state to follow suit. During the campaign, you had said that you thought the dangers of such a program outweigh the benefits. Do you still feel that way?
We have proponents of the policy. I know New Jersey is looking at it. We have opponents of the policy. We're talking to both sides of the issue, if you will, and we're reviewing it, but we don't have a final position.
Governor, what do you think of the proposal that voters in Nassau County will be voting on soon about borrowing money to redo the Nassau Coliseum for the island?
You know what, Yancey, I'm going to leave it to the voters of Nassau County. I understand the theory of it. I've spoken to the county executive about it. There's no doubt that economic development, as we're discussing today, which is the county executive's thrust, is exactly the right thrust and the right purpose. Whether that project at that time makes sense, I think the county executive was wise to go to the voters. I think getting them to buy in was smart, and I'll leave it to them to make a decision. I think it's August 1, so let's see what the voters come up with.
Governor, are you sensitive to kind of the concerns of management confidential employees that if they are signed on to the CSEA and PEF agreement, that they will have sustained 5 years of zero since they got no broad-based raises in the last 2 fiscal years before this deal would go into effect?
You know, Casey, I understand a lot of this is hard to justify, right? And if you try to compare one to the other, it's very, very difficult. And if you try to come up with total symmetry, it's among all groups, it's very difficult. The way the conversations I've had is I've said to groups, look, we are where we are, right? And how we got here and what happened in the past and who was right and who was wrong and what should have been done, that's all yesterday. Let's think about tomorrow and let's act today. And we're at a place where everyone is going to have to sacrifice. And that's where we are. And by the way, everyone is sacrificing. And so far, God bless the people of the state of New York and the public employees, they have been sacrificing. I think they've been doing the quote-unquote right thing by the state overall. And I think it's less important and it's unproductive to say, well, in the past I did more, in the past they did less. We are where we are.
Will you be, or are you planning to officiate in any same-sex marriage ceremonies this weekend?
We're going to have plans for, we're working on plans for this weekend as we speak, but we'll let you know before the weekend.
Just to follow up Ken's question on medical marijuana, you're saying that right now you don't have a position on it. Is that a changed position?
I have not supported it in the past, Fred, and we have no change.
Have you gone from opposing it to now looking at it with a more, with a willingness to support it at some point, or have you not changed your earlier position?
I have not changed my position. We're always learning and listening and talking and growing, we hope. It's the theory anyway, but I have not changed my position, no.
Thanks, everybody.
Anything else? Thank you very much.